You've probably heard the stories, right? These incredible tales of advanced yogis who can walk on water, control the weather, maybe even become lighter than a feather. I mean, it's a totally captivating image. But what happens when you stack those legends up against 50 years of real-world, dedicated practice? Well, today, we're going to peel back the myths to uncover the profound and honestly way more useful benefits that a lifelong yoga journey actually offers.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to kick things off with the fantasy of yogic superpowers. Then we'll get a serious reality check from a practitioner with half a century of experience. After that, we'll explore the actual power of the practice, redefine some key spiritual ideas, and wrap up with how you can set some realistic, powerful expectations for your own journey. So, let's start with the legends. You know, the fantastic stories that often draw people to the mystical side of yoga in the first place.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? It's the ultimate promise. The idea that you can transcend the ordinary, that you can achieve something that seems to just completely defy the laws of physics. It's an idea that has fascinated people for, well, centuries.
So the ancient traditions talk about these things called siddhis, which are basically psychic or miraculous powers. And the claims are, well, they're extraordinary. We're talking manipulating the elements, changing your body size at will, even creating objects out of thin air. Honestly, it sounds more like something out of a Marvel movie than a wellness practice.
Okay, so now let's contrast that whole fascinating myth with something way more grounded. Half a century of dedicated, real-world, in-the-trenches practice. So, the insights for our explainer today, they come from a practitioner who has truly lived this stuff. His name is Osman, also known as the blind Muslim yogi. He started at just 8 years old, and by 19 he'd had his first samadhi, a profound state of bliss we'll talk about later. Now at 57, he's marking his 50th year of practice. So this isn't theory, this is his lived experience.
So, after 5 decades of deep practice and teaching, what does he think the odds are of anyone achieving those fantastical superpowers? It's about 1 in 100,000. And you know what? He's not even sure about that one.
And he's not mincing words here. This quote just brilliantly illustrates his certainty. He's so confident that these powers are basically unattainable for even the most serious practitioners that he'd bet his life on it. It's a powerful statement that just cuts right through the myth. He actually compares it to an old industrial manufacturing standard. Think about this. Decades ago, Panasonic had this goal of 0 defects. But they defined 0 not as absolute mathematical perfection, but as a failure rate of just 1 in 100,000. In the real world, odds that low are functionally 0.
Okay, so if the goal isn't walking on water, then what is the point? What are the true achievable superpowers that actually come from decades of practice? Well, the real benefits are less about defying physics and more about mastering your own reality. We're talking about developing incredible physical stamina, building a mind that is just so resilient to the crushing stress of modern life, and becoming more effective in literally everything you do. These are the powers that actually change your life.
And this isn't just talk. For example, as a demonstration of physical endurance, Osman describes his own workout routine. At over 50 years old, it includes doing 5,000 crunches in a single session. Yeah, that kind of stamina comes directly from this deep synergy of yoga and breathwork.
And check out this fantastic real-world example. A professional boxer, a guy who trained for hours every single day, could do sets of 120 push-ups. After just 2 weeks of adding in specific yogic breathing techniques for only 15 minutes a day, he could bust out 200 push-ups in a set and wasn't even winded. Now that is a measurable, real-world superpower.
So let's see how this builds, because the benefits go way beyond just the physical. The practice also involves these profound internal experiences, but, even these are often completely misunderstood.
So that samadhi experience we mentioned earlier, it isn't some power you can just wield. Osman describes it as a state of being, an overwhelmingly blissful connection that is so profound it can literally leave you speechless for an hour, your mind just struggling to process the sheer scale of it all.
And it's the same thing with Kundalini awakening. It's often depicted as some kind of explosive energy event, right? But he offers a much more accessible, much more grounded definition. It's that fundamental human drive to search for deeper meaning. It's the belief that there's got to be more to life than just eating, sleeping, and accumulating stuff.
So here's the crucial point, and this is so important. If you are a curious person, if you're asking the big questions, if you're searching for something more,
That spiritual energy isn't some distant goal you have to work towards. It's the very engine that's driving your curiosity right now. It's already awake.
And all of this brings us to the most practical takeaway from this whole explainer, how you should approach your own practice with wisdom and with your eyes wide open. The advice here is just wonderfully pragmatic. Chasing mystical powers without understanding the reality of it all is like playing the lottery and expecting to win. You got to know the odds before you decide to dedicate decades of your life to a specific outcome. Be realistic.
And really, that's the core message. The true magic isn't in levitation. It's in stress reduction. The real superpower isn't controlling the rain. It's controlling your own mind and body so you can live a healthier, more effective, and more meaningful life. And those benefits? They are not 1 in 100,000. They are available to everyone who practices consistently.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. Instead of chasing a fantasy, what if you focused on what is profoundly achievable? Better health, a calmer mind, greater resilience. Because by setting grounded expectations, you don't lose the magic. You find it where it truly lives. If you want to dive deeper into the scientific, results-based approach, you can find a ton of free resources from Osman on his YouTube channel, The Blind Muslim Yogi, or check out his services at yogawellness786.com. And of course, don't forget to follow his podcast, The Blind Muslim Yogi, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.